Hello and welcome to the Weekend Edition. I'm Dr. Kingori Maze. This is yet another special episode for you. Our reporter Kenyans is also on standby with a special guestwork report. Our guests for this episode are two of the only 37 neurosurgeons in Kenya. Now, you know, Maze, growing up, many of us were motivated by the story of Ben Carson and how he became a neurosurgeon. I remember the first time our class teacher, pale Embu Urban Primary School, alitupigia hiyo story mazi. I changed my aspirations from becoming a pilot, nikaamua sasa mazi nataka kufocus nikuwe neurosurgeon. Story ya vile haikuwa, nitawaambia siku ingine. But our guests for this episode are a lady and a gentleman who followed that path and are now practicing. Dr. Beverly Cheserem and Dr. Peter Kitungu are in the house. We'll be talking to them in a bit. But first, we start with some good news. Baba has fully recovered from COVID-19 and he had this to say at his first press conference.
Wacha kwanza nichukue fursa hii kutoa shukrani sana kwa ndugu yangu Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ambaye amekuja akanitoa kwa kitanda. Akaniambia nitoke.
Haters have had a field day with that speech maze. Ati president ametoa baba kwa kitanda akamsimamisha ndio ampe kiti. Now wengine wanasema ati this is a true show of unity in Kenya sababu Jubilee imeingia kwa bedroom ya baba na hakuna chaos. Now the most basic interpretation of from what Baba said is simply the president alisikia wa Kenya wakisema opposition imelala akaiamsha. Other haters have also claimed that Kenya imefika mahali baba anaamjua na madeni. Now in the same week, Baba's party ODM announced that Baba will be running for president in 2022, only to later change and claim that it was an April Fool's Day prank. A move that the party was highly criticized for, which begs the question, why were people mad? ODM just chose one day in a year. Now, isn't it generally accepted that for most politicians, every day is Fool's Day? Maybe people are just mad that politicians admitted that they had lied. In other news, police this week announced that they will be using drones to arrest people who flout COVID-19 and curfew rules, your COVID-19 containment measures. A section of Kenyans dismissed the idea on grounds that no pilot project has ever taken off in this country. In an interesting twist, though, critics have celebrated the idea because after years of being branded as promoting consumerism, for the first time, it seems like the government is going to invest in production. Now, there's also a section of Kenyans who can't understand how this will be implemented because you may be tempted to agree with them. Have a look at some of the people who flout curfew rules.
I don't fear you. Where's the police? Kulikuwa na polisi Kisumu.
Ushindi wanyama bwana. Ushindi wanyama.
Where's the police?
Wata una kakitu.
Wewe kitu kidogo bwana.
Wata una kakitu baba. Wewe una kakitu.
Huyu jamaa drone inaweza muambia nini? Hao ndio watu mnataka kuletea drone. Imagine huyu jamaa akiagi una drone sasa. Nipige tu picha lakini usidipost. Now for this and other news of the general attitude of some Kenyans about the COVID-19 protocols, our reporter Kenyanjui prepared the following report.
The Guesswork Institute of Misleading Information has this week concluded that someone needs to teach the people of Murang'a how to run from the police. This is literally Proverbs chapter 28. The sinner runneth when no one is chasing him. Our Department of Insincere Motivational Speakers have recommended a benchmarking trip to Kibra for tried and tested tips on how to run from the authorities. This has to be the best video impression available of when social distancing was social distancing. Our fraternity of involuntary Olympic champions ama ukipenda wanariadha wa kienyeji have always held the standard that before you scamper for safety, you always need to ask yourself one question.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
Exactly. This incident was captured in Murang'a over the Easter weekend during a crackdown on people flouting the COVID-19 protocols ama ukipenda in Raymond's language, suspected corona influencers, the most effective brand ambassadors yet, a unit who, according to statistics, are the most effective in the world of influencers because for everything they touch, the results are viral. This crackdown has been considered unfair in some quarters. A report by our Department of Hard Feelings and Snitchology has indicated that the authorities were arresting people for flouting rules that they themselves were breaking. E.g.,
kuna watu vichwa ngumu ambao anavaa barakoa anaileta hapa chini, hata hawa ni wahalifu na tutawastaki na tumewastaki.
And that's not to mention the lack of social distancing in the vehicles used by the chiefs. While responding to this mehe, they first denied and then added that Kenyans are overthinking. In fact, they claim that in this video in question, the chiefs have actually arrested themselves. People of different ages and gender were harvested for Mariamu packaging in the operation, most of whom have claimed unfair treatment, e.g., this gentleman who claimed that he was just arrested because of how he was vaccinated, ama ukipenda in Raymond's language, vile amedoga. This mzee was also harvested despite having a mask on. Did this have anything to do with the color of the mask? On inquiry, Guesswork was told that his case was different as he was arrested on impersonation charges. Ati aliulizwa jina, asema Spider-Man. The exercise has been criticized as a knee-jerk reaction, with the classic example of this gentleman who appeared to be running from no one. Kube all this time, serikali ilikuwa inagurumisha dudhi ndio wamkibize nayo. Says a lot about the government response time to this pandemic. The Union of Kenyans of Goodwill still cannot understand why, despite the losses brought about by the coronavirus pandemic, some Kenyans still cannot take the said precautions seriously. The explanation can be as simple as,
kuna watu vichwa ngumu,
or, as haters have claimed, some people just don't care, with careless statements like, hakuna tofauti kati ya kushikwa na polisi na kushikwa na COVID, at because an encounter with either can cause the same complications. Difference being, at least you can see the police, thereby social distancing can be practiced when need arises. Guesswork has asked whether, other than force, proper sensitization and more civic education to deal with the matter would help.
People there before have been saying it is not there because I've not had anyone who has died of COVID. I think now nearly everyone is a witness now. We know them. They are ranging from the mighty to the lowest. They are our neighbors. They are our friends. They are opinion shapers. So at least now everyone knows someone who has gone of COVID. But the worst part is that despite that, we are still, defying all protocols. And the most important protocol is the protocol of the mask.
Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria also had the following to say in that line.
We would rather differ with you because I'm forcing you to put a mask, other than differing with you because I'm refusing to attend your burial.
Which begs the question, how do you differ with someone because you did not attend their burial? How interesting. Kukosana na mtu sababu hukwenda mataga yake. Food for thought right there. Representing the Guesswork fraternity on the Wicked Edition, guess who? Who else but the one I don't bring? Kenya! Chewy.
Big up yourself, Kenya Njui. Now, issue ya leo mazeni ya kufungua akili. Literally, our guests for this episode are neurosurgeons. 2 of the only 37 in this country. I strongly feel the need to extend this conversation to the other end of this short commercial break, where we meet Dr. Beverly Cheserem and Dr. Peter Kitungu for all matters neurosurgery, ama neurology. See you guys in a bit. Welcome back to the Wicked Edition. I'm Dr. Kingori. Show nzito sena kama kawaida. Maguest wetu wa leo ni neurosurgeons. Wale wasi walienda primary school time yetu, mnakumbuka vile walimu wako wanatupatia nafasi ya kupumua na story ya Ben Carson. Sasa, these are people who are in a career line yenye they meet very open-minded people, as in you are guaranteed to meet someone with an open mind. Tuko na Dr. Beverly Cheserem na Dr. Peter Kitungu. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Nikiangalia numbers, there's only 37 of you in this country, right? Serving almost 50 million Kenyans. How do you deal with a population here?
There's a huge shortfall of neurosurgeons we have. Yes. 37 for a population of 50 million ni ratio kidogo sana.
1% to 1.4 million.
1 to 1.4 million. So hao ni watu wengi sana kwa mtu mmoja ku take care of.
Yes.
And the number has grown recently. Tuna increase slowly. And I think I'll give a little credit to my seniors, the ones who trained us kufika mali tuko. We actually have training programs ambazo tuna train watu. So we are trying to change that ratio as we go along. So even within the country, we have a number of programs that are training neurosurgeons with the hope of sending a neurosurgeon to every county in this republic. And that's a short-term goal. So that's actually going to be achieved. Hopefully, short-term.
Like, where will you summer for how long do you go full neurosurgeon?
Labda ni kuhesabia pole. Nianzie high school ama primary. Nianzie primary ama high school.
10 years, 15?
Let me put it this way.
Yes.
Kutoka nianze med school,
yes,
it was 13 years. Kutoka niingie kampo.
13 years?
Yes.
Alafu Dr. Beverly, you mentioned something that uliniambia it's very important that we remember that sio brain peke yake. Unajua watu wengi wa neurosurgeon wanafikirianga neurosurgery ni brain peke yake mpaka spine. So science ya spine, my understanding ideally ilikuwa ni kama attempted mkia for human beings. Like, it almost
ni more complicated than that. So ukiona kama ni network system, kuna ile ka CPU pale, kuna my information inawekwa,
yes,
lakini lazima kuwe na connections to the rest of your body. Yes. So spine ni super highway ya information from your body inakuja kwa bongo, and information from your bongo directions ile kufanya. So the neurosurgery covers not just the nerves, but also the bones around it. Ukifikiria bones ni kama your architecture around your highway. Yeah? So we deal with trauma. Watu wakianguka sijui nini tofauti. We deal with tumors.
Yes.
Tumors of the spine, both in the bone and within the nerves itself, and the covering of it inaitwa dura.
Yes.
We deal with when you are born in your mother's womb, in the first trimester, so 0 to about 14, that's when your nervous system inawekwa together. Yeah?
Yes.
So the challenges that come with abnormalities of that, we deal with that as well, which means a neurosurgeon can take care of you even before you're born. Because when your parents are being counseled about what this disease means, us guys are involved. Telling the parents, this is what to expect, this is what we will plan to do when they're born. In some countries, some even surgeries are done when you're in your mother's womb.
Yes.
So there's a lot of different things we do. So I've talked about trauma, we talk about degenerative spine. Kila mtu unajua kama nyumba, over time ina shida zake.
Yes.
So even you and I, over time our spines itakuwa na tofauti. And that can result in pain, abnormal posture, kama hizo.
Okay.
So so we deal with the brain and the spine and the peripheral nerves.
Okay. Sawa. Dr. Kitungu,
yes,
ukifungua, we ni neurosurgeon. Ukifungua mtu kichwa ukiangalia ni nini noma, unateremka na spine na kisu ukiangalia. Ukipata noma ingine yenye haiko kwa nervous system, unafunga unamwambia wenda sasa uone daktari wa kitu ingine.
I wish ingekuwa rahisi hivyo sana. Kile si usema ni before upange kwenda kufanya operation yote, uko na plan. So uko na plan ya umeona mgonjwa before, kuna picha zimepigwa, umediscuss with the relatives and with the patient themselves, objectives of operation ni gani.
Yes.
So unaenda specifically kutafuta kitu. Very specific thing, unajaribu kuitafuta na uisort. Sawa? Now, that's where I'm saying iko kwa easy vile unasema. Ufungue hapa upate hakuna shida, ufungue pande nyingine upate hakuna shida. I keep saying we work in very tight spaces. So hata kazi yetu mingi ni kujaribu kufika kwa hiyo shida bila kusumbua the normal structures zenyewe. So ni if I can sema tu kitu hapa, tuko naambiwa kwa neurosurgeon kaa kwa bank robber. Ukiingia lazima ujue vile utatoka. Au ingiangi tu. So kuna ile plan ya kuingia pale hivyo kufanya ile kile unataka kufanya, alafu utoke bila kucause any harm ama bila kuacha any signs out ulikuwa pale.
Yes.
So again, kama nafanya, because the patients naona wako na shida za neurosurgery na wako na shida zingine.
Yes.
Kuna subspecialties wengine. So before hata nianze kufanya kazi yangu, I've involved that, we call it a multidisciplinary team. We come up with a plan pamoja, then tunaenda. Sio kufungua, tunafunga, hapana.
Okay. Sawa sawa. But bado mimi I'm a simple minded man, doc. Mmeifungua akili ya mtu by now in your line of career.
Tumefanya hivyo.
Mmeifungua akili ya msee ama kichwa ya msee ukapata vile watu husema jamaa ana akili. For you, what does that mean?
First of all, you know a question about the difference between the brain and the mind.
Yes.
Yeah? So brain kuna scans tofauti ambazo unaweza kufanya ambazo zinakupea a lot of information about the person. Yeah? So unakuja CT scan, MRI, sasa tuna vitu kama PET and all this. So inaweza kuniambia over time huyu msee total volume yake imepungua. Lakini unajua
size ya akili.
Size ya akili. So all of us over time tuta lose the size of our brain. So if you look at any ukinipea tu scan, naweza kuambia roughly how old that person is. Yeah? Because over time you lose brain matter. So the scan of a child is very different from a scan of a teenager. It's different from somebody in their 40s and 50s. It's different to someone who's in their 90s. Lakini mtu akiwa na shida tofauti, unaweza pata uko kwa accelerated program. Unaona? Unaangalia mtu unasema you're 50 lakini hii brain imeenda.
Najua unataka kuwa polite but mtu mzima ako na utoto.
Si ati kuna utoto. It's a bit more complex than that because kuna ile the way your mind works na kuna ile life choices mtu amefanya. Yeah? So hiyo ndio tofauti through your brain and your mind. Your mind ni so your brain ni just the brain itself. Ile unaangalia gross anatomy.
Structure.
The mind is the sense of self. Yeah? Wakati unajua sasa mimi nimejielewa, nimefanya hizi choices, yeah? So part of that is vile brain yako inafanya. So some people lack the ability for complex thought. Hiyo si shida yao, ni hivyo tu wasamehe. But then for others ni the personal choices umefanya. Yeah? So that's a very different thing. It's not ati ugonjwa. Hiyo ni ile choice umefanya.
Okay. Sawa. Dr. Peter. Dr. Cheserema alikuwa ameniambia ati wakati ni intensive care kuna parts za brain zenye ni specific for certain functions. Like kama msee labda alikuwa anapenda kucheza piano, ati kuna place piano ikiguzwa ina respond. Na sasa ati when you're operating on someone ni muhimu sana usitampa na kitu hata place ya language. So hapo ndio nikakuwa curious that ukifungua akili ya msee alafu uko hapo ndani unaget hiyo place ya language. Kuna vile unaweza guza msee amke akiwa Mkisi na alikuwa amelala.
Yes, na kuelewa.
Yes.
Nitatry ku simplify kidogo. I think the brain itself is a beautiful organ, wonderful.
Yes.
Yote ukifungua inakaa about the same. Ukiangalia iko, I think hata daktari akona model kidogo hapa. Haikuangi green. Hii tu ni model ya kuonyesha.
Hii ni standard size ya akili.
Hapana, ni ndogo zaidi ya an adult brain. An adult brain is slightly bigger than this.
Hii itakuwa mtoto pengine 4 years.
4-5 years.
Yeah.
So an adult brain is slightly bigger than this. But ukiangalia inakaa ni kama haina any distinctive marks. Unaona tu iko na bumps, iko na some trenches, but they all look the same.
Yes.
So one of the things that you do kama unasoma, actually medical school wacha kufanya neurosurgery, ni kitu inaitwa anatomy. We teach you the structure itself and then you link that with the function. So the brain inakuanga na specialization. Cha niseme hivyo. Certain parts zinafanya certain things. Kuna yenye inakusaidia kuthink, kucalculate, kucheza chess, make complex decisions.
Yes.
Kuna place yenye inakusaidia kusongesha vidole, kuna place yenye inakufanya kuinterpret kile unaona. Okay? So macho inapata hiyo nini hizo signals, lakini ikifika kwa brain ndio inainterpret. Inasema umevaa shati ya black, tie ya yellow, t-shirt na shati ya white. Unaelewa? So each of them is gonna specific functions. Language is very complex. Language sio just the connection itself, because it's a learned skill. So over time you'll make connections as you learn a language. Utapata watoi wana learn languages faster kushinda vile ukijaribu kufunza mzai French. But a child would pick it up very quickly, especially when in that environment where the language is being used a lot. So it's an immersive sort of experience in learning that language. So siwezi kukugeuza ukue Mkamba by kugusa mahali. Atika waya fulani hivi nafanya huyu anakuwa Muitaliano, lakini hata sisi tukipanga operation yetu tunajua mali the place ya language iko. So a huge part of our work ni kuavoid hizi places zenye ziko na what we call eloquent function. Kazi yetu ni kuavoid kuongeza anything ugonjwa haikuongeza. So tutoe ile ugonjwa yenye iko bila kuongeza any other defaults.
Alafu doc, when it comes to diseases, for example, before ifike, you mentioned something very important in our conversation before. Yeah, when operating, before mtu afike operation, kuna hizo early detection.
Yeah.
And how they help.
Yes.
Kwa sababu before ifike place tumor iko, kuna signs zenye mtu anafaa ku watch out for, ukuwe rada, you need to go get checked out, and how does it help?
So mara nyingi watu wanajua wana shida tofauti katika kiafya. So ukisema ukiumwa na kichwa ama una shida ya kuona ama umekufa ganzi ama shida yote, nasisitiza everyone should just go and see a doctor, and the doctor should then do the relevant tests. And then when those tests are done, then they are fed to us. So the difference with a neurosurgeon is, we're not your first port of call. Yes. Normally umeshapitia mikono ya wenzetu, doctors and nurses and stuff. The difference it makes, nikichukua mfano ya stroke. So a stroke ni when there's a blood haijafika a certain station, yeah? Okay. So there are treatments in this country. So we offer it in Aga Khan, and it's offered also in Nairobi Hospital inaitwa thrombectomy, yeah? Pali kama kuna clot tunaweza kuitoa. The international guidelines show that tukikuona within 24 hours, 1 in 3 people wanakuwa na benefit, wanaenda kuishi independent lives. That's a really important thing. Yeah?
If I can just chip in, I think that's such an important point that I just felt, even if you give me 1 second, I just chip in on it. Because as she's saying, one of the things that we find a challenge is our patients come rather late. Yeah. Majority of the patients have come late. And it's what we call health-seeking behavior.
Yes.
Mkenya atasema amerogwa, ama atakunywa Panadol, ama they'll do everything to try and postpone kwenda kuona daktari.
Yes.
Because the initial symptoms, even let's say a tumor, are usually very subtle. It's a headache that's not going away. It's vision ambayo inaanza kupotea, ama masikio iko na shida, or just a little bit of by the time you're starting to get weakness kwa mikono na miguu, that's actually relatively late. So that headache ambayo it's persistent.
Yes.
Don't ignore it. Go see a healthcare provider. They can assess the risk, whether you require further investigations, and then eventually whether you require referral to a specialist.
Ukifungua akili ya mtu, kuna place ukienda, you have to be very careful. Unajua kuna waya ukiguza anakuwa mwenda wazimu.
So first of all, it depends what you define by mwenda wazimu, yeah? So if you just help me with the brain, and the other half. So the different parts of the brain do different things. So the cerebellum deals with your movement. The back here is to do with your vision. The temporal lobe on the side is to do with language and emotion. The parietal lobe is about sensation. And then the frontal lobe is where you have not only movement, but you also have your personality. Yeah? So even the definition of madness varies from time to time in different societies. So it's a very complex thing. I can't answer you with one question. But in terms of the way watu wamekuelewa, and then afterwards change, yes, there are parts of the brain, if you touch, somebody might lose their executive function, the ability to make a decision. Unamuliza unaenda wapi? And then they can't really make a decision. The other parts, if you touch, they lose your inhibition. We all have thoughts that unafikiria lakini tu umenyamaza.
Yes.
Now that thing can be shut off. So unasema tu what comes to your mind,
Hauna break ya akili.
So it's very complex ukisema. The term mwenda wazimu is something that I'm very careful about because it's about mental health. It means different things in different people. And so we can change how you function, but I wouldn't necessarily put it the way you have because it's much more complex than that. The brain and the personality and who you are is much more complex than just a part that you touch.
But honestly, in your academics,
yes,
you can actually tell a fool when you.
Kingori sasa imeanza kuwa therapy session. What do you want to tell us? Tusikie.
Hapana. Ni vile amwezi sema but unaweza fungua mtu useme jamani mjinga sana.
Hapana.
Amwezi sema?
Hatuwezi
As in,
kusema
it does
hivyo.
not show physically. It's beyond that.
It's beyond that. Sometimes you can look at the anatomy of the brain and understand that somebody's function for higher functions imepungua because of the disease process. Hiyo huwezi kusema this person is a nini. Hiyo ni shida through their disease process ama vile ameumbwa. But we don't open, nimekuambia kuna mind choices umefanya. Kila mtu amepewa kipawa. So the way you used it ndio ina determine kama you're a fool or not. And that is not something a neurosurgeon deals with. That is the personal choices you've made.
Vile wanasemanga no one knows the date nor the hour. Sometimes you have the power. So my next question in our next episode, because this is the third episode we are doing with the doctors, would it be good if everyone knew the date? Ati unajua mazee wewe mwezi fulani tarehe fulani kinani sasa upange mambo yako. Also all the doctors we've had on this show are very polite, and even the feedback that we receive, those people, the doctors you had on the show are very humble, and the same case applies to you. So seems like rudeness is only taught to nurses.
No. The backbone of any healthcare system is nurses. We work very well with them. Without them, we cannot work. To every one doctor, there are so many nurses, and not only nurses, there are cleaners, there are caterers. Yani ukitoka anything from this program, healthcare is a team. Yeah? Healthcare is a team.
Of course, Mazi. Nurses, shout out to all the nurses in Kenya for the good work you're doing. Mnajua hizo ni jokes, by the way. For the good work that you're doing in our system. Asanteni sana. Mnajua tumeendelea for too long, but tungeendelea bado. We only, hata tujafika halfway. Crash program ya neurology, sio neurosurgery. Just in case, nilikuwa najaribu kwa mislead, nione kama mta fall in kwa hii pande ya neurosurgery. But asanteni sana kwa kukamshow yetu.
Thanks for having us.
If you're doing anything awareness around the neurosurgery stuff, there are many of us who are willing. We really want guys to know that the services are available here.
Very true.
Kabisa.
It's a passionate thing.
Now for the next episode, we can go to specifics like ni aje problem fulani, ama we can discuss tumors on one episode in a way that wasi wanaweza learn more. Sindio? Otherwise, most important, get checked early, mazee. Afadhali upate hakuna kuliko udelay upate ilikuwa. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana.
That's it for the Wicked Edition. See you next week. My name is Dr. Kingori.